It started as one of those clear, late summer afternoons where the air feels too calm for anything bad to happen. I was out by the barn, checking the water troughs, when the faint thump of rotor blades began to roll across the valley. At first, I thought it was just another medevac from the nearby hospital. But then the sound multiplied. One helicopter became two, then three, then an entire fleet sweeping low over the ridgeline toward my ranch. The sun caught their sides, and I could see the markings. These weren't news choppers or tourists. This was federal duty. Something serious was going on. That's when my neighbor, Mr. Klein, came barreling up in his beat-up golf cart with two other men wearing matching jackets that had big, blocky letters on the back. HOA security. The thing is, our HOA doesn't even have official security, just a handful of self-appointed rule enforcers who act like they run the valley. And today, for reasons I still can't fully understand, they were convinced these helicopters were trespassing. They said they had orders to stop them. Before I could say a word, they yanked open the back of the cart, pulled out what looked like scoped air rifles, and started aiming skyward. They were talking about protecting HOA airspace and making an example. I told them to knock it off, that you can't just interfere with a federal mission, but they weren't hearing me. The wind from the rotors was already whipping across the field, and the noise was deafening. Then it happened, sharp pops cutting through the roar of the blades. The pilots didn't even flinch, but I could see the crew doors sliding open mid-flight. My stomach dropped. This wasn't going to end in a warning. By the time I realized what was about to happen, it was already too late. The HOA cops had crossed a line you don't come back from. And the helicopters were turning. The helicopters swung into a slow, deliberate circle over the ranch, their shadows sliding across the pasture like giant, moving specters. Dust swirled up in thick clouds, stinging my eyes. I could feel the base of the rotors in my chest. The three HOA officers suddenly didn't look so sure of themselves anymore. But they tried to play it off, talking louder than the noise, insisting they were within their rights. Mr. Klein kept glancing at me like he expected me to back him up. I didn't. In all the years I've lived out here, I've seen him patrol our gravel roads with a clipboard, chasing down people over mailbox paint colors or lawn height. But this was different. This wasn't some neighborhood meeting or petty dispute. These helicopters were clearly on a mission, and I had a sinking feeling that whatever that mission was, it had nothing to do with our little HOA rules. The other two men, Bell and Harris, were the type who thrived on neighborhood gossip, always whispering about outsiders and protecting the valley. Bill's hand still hovered over his air rifle like he thought he might need it. Harris kept fiddling with a little handheld radio, muttering into it like someone was feeding him instructions. I couldn't tell if they really believed they were helping or if they just liked feeling important above us. One of the helicopters flashed a light signal, short bursts that I recognized from my years working near the fire service. That was a code for clear the area, only nobody was clearing anything. Klein planted his feet, jaw set like he was about to make some kind of last stand. I stepped toward him, shouting over the noise, but my words were swallowed by the wind. Then I noticed something far off, at the tree line, two black SUVs kicking up dust as they barreled down the dirt road toward us. No markings, no plates I could read. That's when I realized the helicopters weren't the only ones coming, and whatever was about to happen next was going to make those HOA air rifles look like toys. The SUVs came in fast, tires spitting gravel, engines growling low like something out of a movie. They didn't slow down until they were practically skidding into the open field. Doors flew open and men in dark uniforms spilled out, moving with a precision that told me they weren't local law enforcement. No badges, no friendly greetings, just silent coordination and hand signals as they spread into a wide perimeter around us. Klein's face drained of color. T still tried to puff himself up. "This is private property," he shouted, as if that meant anything in the face of whatever authority had just arrived. Bill's hands twitched on his air rifle, but Harris set his down slowly, eyes darting between the men and the circling helicopters above. I could feel the tension stretching thin, like the air before a summer storm. From the corner of my eye, I saw movement by the barn my ranch hand. Miguel, standing half-hidden behind a fence post. He looked worried, but not confused. Like maybe he knew something about why this fleet had come. The problem was, Miguel wasn't the type to talk when things got serious. The uniformed men began speaking into their earpieces, glancing up at the choppers. One of them broke off and walked toward me, his gaze locked, as if I was the one in charge here. "We need everyone to stay where they are," he said over the noise. "We've got an active federal operation in progress." He didn't explain, didn't ask questions, just made it clear we were now part of something much bigger than our little valley disputes. Klein muttered under his breath, swearing about overreach and government interference. I wanted to tell him to stop, but I was frozen, watching as another man in uniform headed straight for Miguel. That's when the first helicopter finally broke its circle and descended lower, kicking up a wall of dirt so thick I couldn't see past my own boots. Somewhere in that haze, I heard Miguel's voice low, urgent, and then the unmistakable sound of a latch being opened on one of the SUVs. Something or someone was about to be brought out. The wall of dust churned and twisted, swallowing the edges of the field until it felt like we were standing in the middle of a storm. The helicopters hung low, their rotors pounding the air in heavy rhythmic thuds. Through the haze, I caught flashes of dark shapes, federal agents moving with purpose. Klein and his crew standing frozen, and Miguel edging backward like he was trying not to be noticed. Then I saw it. The SUV's rear hatch lifting slowly, almost deliberately, like they wanted everyone to see what was inside. The men nearby adjusted their stances, hands hovering near their gear. I couldn't make out the details yet, but the way they moved told me whatever they had wasn't ordinary. Cargo. Klein took a step forward, his voice cracking as he demanded to know what right they had to be here. One of the agents swung his gaze toward him sharp, unblinking. "Dan." Klein stopped mid-sentence. The air felt tight, every sound amplified. The pop of gravel under boots, the low rumble of engines still running, the throb of rotor wash pressing against my ears. Bill leaned toward me, his voice barely a whisper. "They're not here for us. They're here for him." His chin tilted toward Miguel. That didn't make sense, not until I remembered the strange deliveries Miguel had signed for over the past month, and the way he always made sure they were stored in the far corner of the barn, away from prying eyes. The dust shifted just enough for me to catch a glimpse into the SUV metal cases stacked neatly, each marked with bold, stenciled warnings. I didn't have time to read them before another gust wiped the view away. An agent barked something into his radio, and instantly the helicopters tightened their circle, dropping even lower. Klein's jacket whipped in the wind as he stumbled back. Miguel froze, his eyes locked on whatever had been in that SUV. Then came the sound, sharp, urgent, of one helicopter's side door sliding open. A figure inside leaned out, scanning the ground. And whoever they were looking for, they had just found them. The figure in the helicopter wasn't dressed like the others. No heavy tactical gear, no visible weapon, just a windbreaker and a headset, their eyes hidden behind mirrored glasses. They spoke into a mic, and almost instantly, every agent on the ground shifted their attention away from Miguel and toward me. It was so sudden, I thought I'd misread the moment. But then one of the agents near the SUV started moving fast, weaving through the dust until he was right in front of me. "You," he said over the noise, "step forward. Now." Klein's mouth fell open. Him? What for? He barked like he couldn't believe they'd ignore his little HOA standoff. But the agents didn't even glance at him. They were closing in on me from two sides now, and I could see that whatever was in those metal cases wasn't there only. Concerned Miguel looked more confused than scared, which made me think maybe he hadn't been the real target all along. Maybe he'd just been a piece in something bigger. And that something had just landed squarely on my shoulders. The wind from the rotors kicked up again, ripping the cap off my head. I squinted against the grit and saw the person in the helicopter leaning farther out. Their gaze fixed on me like they were confirming an ID. My stomach dropped. Bill muttered under his breath, "I think they've got the wrong guy." But I knew, by the way the agents moved calm, coordinated, that this wasn't a mistake. They had come here for a reason, and apparently I was it. From the corner of the field, the sound of engines roared again, only this time it wasn't black SUVs. Two unmarked pickup trucks were tearing down the dirt road, dust billowing behind them. The agents saw them too, and in an instant the tension snapped into something hotter. Sharper, one of the helicopters banked hard, swinging toward the approaching trucks. The agent shouted orders I couldn't hear. Klein ducked behind his cart, and I realized, in the chaos, no one was watching me.